I am going to refute the claim of fact made that child beauty pageants are harmful to children. The claims followed are that child beauty pageants between the ages of 3 to 10, 1, damages these children's self-esteem, 2, puts a lot of pressure on them, and 3, takes their focus off their education. This isn't at all the case for these young girls. My claims are that these pageants actually help develop skills that will benefit their future, instill discipline into participants, and give opportunities and scholarships for their education. This claim states that these children develop self-body image issues, supported by the evidence of an Insider Business article about a 3-year-old dressing up as Julia Roberts. This claim does not give enough evidence that this 3-year-old will have self-body image issues in the future. The evidence claims that the 3-year-old is reenacting a prostitute and reasons that this can cause self-image issues. This reason is insufficient and does not support the claim that acting as a prostitute can cause these issues. This claim is an example of acting and is show that it takes a lot of skills to perform and act. In order to compete and be successful in the beauty pageant world, a child learns to be a well-rounded person at a very young age and to be prepared to answer insightful questions and be able to handle themselves under pressure on stage in front of large crowds. It is not all about looking pretty and wearing fancy clothes. These are skills that are needed to be successful also in real life. This could be valuable training for a future career in music, broadcasting, and other jobs that require you to speak to large groups of people with high confidence. The kids at these pageants have great communication skills at the young ages they are, and also their comfort level grows as a person. The advocate claims a fact that there is too much pressure on these children at these ages. She then states parents are forcing children to be on low-carb diets to be in beauty pageants. There is no reason stated or evidence supporting this claim to be a harm to these children. In order to compete and be successful in the beauty pageant world, you have to have a huge amount of self-discipline. You have to train so that you're on a perfect point on stage, keep a strict diet and workout regimen, and put in the work to make yourself look your best. This discipline is a skill that can help participants in many different aspects of life, especially if they are beginning to compete at a young age, which shows no harm for a child's future. Vela Tella, a former extension specialist in child development at Virginia State University, shows studies of effective discipline for children at a young age in strict sports. This effective discipline helps the children learn self-control, builds the child's self-esteem, sets a good example of effective ways to solve problems. This advocate leads the audience to assume being strict on young children is a harm to them, with not enough reasoning, leading this to be a false claim with not enough evidence. The advocate then leads the audience with a claim of negatively affecting young girls' education, supported by evidence. For example, her evidence is from a website, Psychology Today, of a story of a young girl missing school for a pageant. This is not enough information nor evidence that beauty pageants negatively affects their education. In fact, some beauty pageants have some real advantages to participating. Information on beauty pageants on irs.gov, a very trusted group and website, states many pageants offer cash rewards for the winner, and pageants for younger girls often give out scholarships. This is great because it helps these young people to begin to prepare for their future and gets them in the mindset of furthering themselves. Our advocate gives a false claim in providing more information on this assumption. Beauty pageants continue to fulfill the traditional role of promoting the common good and general welfare of the community. Although the scholarships offer various contestants the chance to enhance their education, the opportunities for the winners to present their communities and sponsor of the pageants during their reign year enhances their career aspirations as well as the economic prospects of the participating businesses. Just as child sports require children to work hard, it's sometimes stressful as life is. Beauty pageants are no different and also offer a lot of education lanes for these young children that is supported. The advocate claims that beauty pageants are harmful to children overall does not give enough evidence to support this claim, and it is insufficient. Thank you.
The structural stuff is all fine at the beginning, setting up what the supporting points are going to be. You go after those points individually. The body issue argument, you suggest basically that they've got a single example that's hard to generalize from, and that the particular case doesn't really show that any harm has occurred, that it's really just acting. The notion that a 3-year-old is acting in the role of Julia Roberts, who's acting in the role of a prostitute, doesn't necessarily show that there's any particular consequence. I thought that that was a good press to be making. I think there might be some other arguments that could suggest that body issues are not as prevalent as the advocate is suggesting. I don't know if we, weight gain or frequency of dieting or long-term consequences. It just seems like there are a lot of presuppositions here based on a couple of examples. And your challenge is okay on this. It makes it seem a little bit more, it kind of makes their example feel a little bit less relevant, but also, in the long run, I think you're kind of dismissing this notion because it's really about a different kind of skill, which is where you go in the next point where you talk about pressure, and in essence you're saying the kids are getting the same kinds of pressure that they would get in any kind of discipline, whether it is a sport that they participate in, that there's nothing wrong with those kinds of pressures. They're suggesting that diets would be a consequence of this. I don't know that there's any information that they presented that showed that kids suffer from eating a strict diet or being careful about what they consume. There was not any data on anorexia, bulimia, or other kinds of eating dysphoria problems as a result of being in pageants. So I think that there's maybe some problem there. The one piece of evidence that you had that kind of equated it to, self-confidence and esteem issues suggested that the opposite is the result, that they have a better sense of themselves as a result of doing these things. I thought that was a good piece of information. And again, then there's the press on whether or not there's any harm. On the psychological issues, you in essence are arguing that there are, that they're not really missing, or excuse me, the Psychology Today are evidence that there's a single example that's being talked about here, that there are in fact educational benefits. The educational benefits are the ones. Is this the second response we've heard to this speech? Okay, I thought so. Some of the same things that we heard the other day about cash rewards or scholarships, that kind of thing. I like the idea that the pageants themselves instill skills that are important. I thought that that was also good. The general welfare of the communities, that sounds like it's an argument that's a little strange. I appreciate your making the effort on that, but the notion that businesses benefit in some way doesn't really necessarily deny that kids could be harmed by this. So its application is, I think, a little bit problematic. I think the sports analogy is probably the one that you ought to pursue, that kids participate in sports, they make sacrifices to do so. This is just another activity that requires them to make sacrifices, and at the moment there's no demonstration that any of the sacrifices that are being made have long-term harms or consequences. That's the summary of the argument. All right, thank you.